Oh my god, this month was just like so frustrating. Like, can I just have one month when it's not just a roller coaster of up and down manga? Hello all of my otaku friends, my name is Profitaku and welcome back to my channel for another manga reading log. This is my reading log for January 2024 and I kind of spread myself a little bit too thin. I didn't focus on one series, but I just jumped around to a bunch of different things. Did I necessarily enjoy it? No. Are there a lot of different things that I read that you probably haven't heard of that I might put on your radar? Sure. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. So let's start off with the publisher I read the most of, and that was from the good folks over at Yen Press. As always, thanks so much to Calissa and the team for continuing to send me manga on their behalf so that I can review and put some new things on y'all's radar. And speaking of new things to put on your radar, one of my favorite reads of this month was a manhwa, actually, and this is Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint Volume 1. Really interesting premise. Follows this guy who's reading the last chapter of his favorite web novel series. He's the only person left that's actually reading this thing. He finishes the final chapter and then his whole world is thrown into the world of this web novel and craziness ensues. Super dark, super messed up. If you like post-apocalyptic stuff, if you like the video game aspect of these manhwas, then this is going to be the one for you. Super fast paced, but it was very easy to follow. I love the action system and I think that this is a very ingestible manhwa and I think it flows fantastic. So I cannot wait for volume 2. Now our first dud of the month is volume 1 of the Shuinji Family Children. If the artwork looks familiar, this is the same person who does Rent a Girlfriend. This was just meh at best. It follows a family of siblings. A big revelation is kind of thrown upon them and then chaos ensues as they try to navigate this new thing in their life. This is a completely forgettable manga. The characters are very poorly written. I have no sort of engagement with them or the story in general. It also takes a really weird turn starting in the second volume. It just feels really inorganic, just something that just seems to be crazy for the sake of being crazy, and it just doesn't flow very well off the page. This is one that I really just don't recommend at all. Here we are with one of Yen Press's most famous ongoing series right now, and that is Oshi no Ko. I read volumes 3 and 4 this month. I love the direction that this series is going. What I love about good storytelling is when a story is able to write individual arcs in a way that feel like their own stories, but amongst this individual arc is an overarching progression towards the main story in general, and Oshi no Ko is doing that to perfection. There's lots of variety in the two different arcs presented in these two volumes with different characters, and it's really interesting to see their character development. So yes, this is one that maybe if you fell off in volume 2 because of the direction of the series, definitely jump back on. It was definitely worth a great read. One of my favorite manga adaptations of isekai light novel, we have The Eminence in Shadow. I read volume 6, 7, and 8 this month. It's just very well written for a manga adaptation. It moves very, very quickly. The world isn't too confusing. It's easy to follow. I think the artwork does a lot for this manga adaptation, helps kind of put a picture around everything. I know that the light novel has a lot of internal dialogue, and that obviously gets rid of a lot of that stuff in this manga adaptation, which I think works really, really well because it's been a very enjoyable read. Interesting premise, so if you are looking for an isekai manga adaptation, check this one out. Moving into some shoujo here, we have volume 5 of Tsubaki-cho Lonely Planet, another great volume by Mika Yamamori. I mean, I don't need to say anything about her or her series. This was a big volume. Some big things happened here. Just a really well-paced manga. I feel like that every single volume brings something really interesting to the table, which is really great for a shoujo series because I feel like shoujos a lot of time really drag things out 3, 4, 5 volumes for just one singular point to just happen in the story. But this one, it feels like every single volume something really unique happens, whether it be small or big. So Tsubaki-cho Lonely Planet, though an age gap romance, is one that I highly recommend. I think that it does everything well. Here we are at the halfway point of a series. I read volume 2 of Glitch. This is a 4-volume series and I really have nothing to say about this because we finally get some progression of this world in this volume, but right at the last chapter, I feel like we still don't know really anything that's going on. I can't really put my definitive opinion on this thing until it's over, just because it's so unique. You're in this world and you're in this town and these weird glitches are happening and people are trying to discover what's going on. You have these human children, but then you have these adults that have weird looks to them. I don't know. It's one of those big wild card manga. I don't know if I would recommend picking it up. Maybe try that first volume out and see if you'd like it. The rest of the series I'm talking about from Yen Press are all series that I have offloaded from my collection. First off, I read Handyman Saito Volume 2. In my notes that I update for my reading log every month as I read the volumes, I want to read for you what I wrote at the moment because I think it's hilarious. Seriously, what the blank is going on? It feels like a story with no MC and lackluster fantasy elements. As you can see, I obviously didn't like it, so I decided to offload it. This next series I hit the halfway point of. I gave it a good shot and I decided, okay, it's finally time to give this one up. No longer Heroine. I read volumes 4 and 5. Look, I'll be honest with you, I kind of liked it. I think it's just trashy soap opera, disgusting drama, and I'm all for it because my life is undramatic and I want to see other people's lives in shambles, I guess. There's some interesting progression going on with the characters. I mean, I don't know. If you're looking for something trashy, yes, I do recommend it. Are there better rom-coms out there? Absolutely. A Yuri series in the Yen Press catalog that I decided to drop is Assorted Entanglements Volume 3. I like the characters and it's cute, but it's just a problem with the storytelling. It's a lack of linear storytelling with this episodic jumping around nature. I just can't really fly with it and I just can't get absorbed into the actual story itself. Thus, I decided to drop it. And last but not least, I read a completed series, Sunbeams in the Sky, Volumes 1, 2, and 3. Our story follows two identical twins. One is very outgoing and personable, and the other one is sheltered due to a traumatic incident that happened to them. One day, the outgoing girl says to the other twin, "Hey, can you go to school for me? I don't really want to go." She goes to school. She experiences high school life for the first time and thus starts this drama, rom-com, eccentric filled manga of twists and turns with these identical twins and their prospective romantic interests. I actually love the premise. I love the start of the manga. I think that the cast of characters get in the way of the main storyline, and there's elements regarding these side characters that do nothing for the story. There's a lot of storytelling issues with this manga as well in terms of the dynamics of a healthy relationship, and I thought that even by the end of the series, I felt like there was just a lot of red flags, especially with our boy main characters, that made me just question the whole integrity of this manga. I mean, it was resolved fine and it was a very conclusive ending. Is it worth a read? Yes. Was it worth for me to keep in my collection? Absolutely not. I'm glad to have passed it on to somebody else who can enjoy it, but yeah, it was a read. Let's move on to just one series from Tokyo Pop. We have Sengoku Yoko Volume 3 by Satoshi Mizukami, the same creator as Spirit Circle and Loose Friend the Biscuit Hammer. This was great. I loved all the different episodes. I love the fantasy elements. I love the historical setting and kind of an older era, and I think that the story itself is progressing very nicely. We're getting more things learned about the world itself, but the characters are what make this manga absolutely great. Our main cast is really, really fun. I just can't wait to see where this series goes. I can finally see it starting to hit its stride in Volume 3. Only one volume from Square Enix this month, Volume 1 of The Ice Guy and the Cool Girl, a rom-com series, an older setting in an office following this girl and this ice god who has snow spirit powers. It's fine, it's episodic, it's cute enough, the premise is interesting with the snow powers and how they're integrated into the office setting. I just don't know about this. I was already kind of bored by the end of the first volume. I thought that the shtick was just done. I think that this is what I'm gonna drop, but I'm gonna give Volume 2 a try and see if I can kind of salvage this thing. From the Kodansha Vertical Conglomerate, we have several different series here. First off is Volume 15 of Blood on the Tracks. This series is starting to turn into a more introspective thing, a lot of reflection on past occurrences from the first half of the series, which is enjoyable enough. I really did like the first half of the series better, where it was just non-stop craziness. It's just a different way of looking at the series. We get a lot of past events in this series, in this volume specifically, and how those past events have shaped what we know of the series currently, which was interesting enough. So 2 more volumes left in this thing. I'm interested to see how it ends. A new series that I started this month, one that has intrigued me and one that's been in my collection for a while. We have Yuzu the Pet Vet. I read volumes 1 to 4 this month. It follows this girl Yuzu. She's 11 years old and she starts helping out in her uncle's pet hospital. It's an episodic shoujo manga following her as she's navigating the pet hospital world, and she's helping her uncle with all these different animals that go through the hospital. Now, don't let this manga fool you. On the cover, it looks very cute and fluffy with the fluffy cats and the plumpy dogs, and you go, oh my goodness, I just love animals so much. And then this manga turns around and it says, oh, here's an animal and here's the loss of its life, and you're like, oh my god. Big trigger warning, it's pretty traumatic. There is some pretty dark and depressing themes that go on here with loss and sickness and anger and confusion about treating animals with compassion. Lots of different things going on, but what I love about this manga is that it is so educational. We get many different episodes about how to take care of an animal, how to deal with loss, how to go through the grieving process, how to make sure that you're doing everything you can for these animals and what animals can do for you. And they also go into different things like disabilities and also how like blind dogs, for example, are used to help people. And I just think it's really cool. This is obviously a manga made for children and I can see why, but I think that this is a very good series for everybody to read if you're an animal lover or even if you don't have animals in your life, just because it just does everything right. It's a very well-written story. I was thoroughly surprised and I can't wait to finish it this month. And the last series that I read from Kodansha is Saving 80,000 Gold for My Retirement Volume 2. It's a weird double isekai story and it just sucks. I mean, I hated Volume 1, hated Volume 2, nothing interesting about it. It's just about this girl who's in this fantasy world after she dies and she just wants to earn and save money for her retirement in this fantasy world by bringing things from the real world into the fantasy world. It's just, there's just nothing interesting about it. I mean, it is just a snooze fest. So yeah, I don't recommend that one at all. Let's go to 7 Seas now. First off, we have Volume 5 of Crossplay Love Otaku X Punk. I have sung high praises about this series, this rom-com boys love series, following 2 boys who cross-dress as girls, and the boys attracted to the girl, and the boys attracted to the girl. They don't know that they're both boys, and it was a lot of fun at the beginning, and it was really interesting, but then it gets convoluted with a bunch of characters, and these characters become ever more present in the 5th volume to the point that the main relationship is just like non-existent. All we get are these side characters. I can't stand that type of storytelling, thus I decided to drop the series. Here's a one-shot that I thought was thoroughly entertaining, and that is The Secret of Friendship, and this is done by the same author who wrote My Love Story and High School Debut. So the story follows 2 pairs of friends and their interactions with each other and what makes their friendship special. There's a lot of twists and turns, lots of drama in here, and I thoroughly enjoyed this series. Very introspective look about friendship and what you would do for your friends and how these friendships change as different people are entangled into their lives, whether it be romantically or just as another friend enters the group. I just thought it was great. Very good one-shot to have in the collection to just share with somebody if they want to get into manga for the first time. And last but not least, I read the 3rd omnibus, volume 7, 8, and 9 of Yokohama Kadashi Kiko. This is one of the pinnacle slice of life manga for a reason, and this volume did not disappoint me. So many great messages in here. Take the opportunities that are presented to you when there's darkness in the world. Maybe you just go for it. Try something new and find the happiness in even the darkest of places. This manga continues to impress me with its storytelling, its intriguing world, and also the messages that are presented even in these very simple chapters. Yeah, you might have to think a little bit, but you'll be rewarded with something really special. So I read several different series from Viz Media this month. One I read digitally was Not Simple by Natsume Ono, my first Natsume Ono work. Just like the title, the story is not simple, even though it seems simple at the beginning. It just follows this boy in a really sad circumstance as he tries to navigate his life. Lots of twists and turns, lots of drama, lots of craziness that you don't expect, and a really interesting message, one that really just kind of tugs at your heartstrings, that no matter matter how hard somebody tries to get out of their circumstance, sometimes life just kind of kicks you down and doesn't let you get back up. And it was really, really interesting to me. I'm very intrigued by all of Natsume Ono's works now, and I can't wait to dive more into this mangaka's works. Here's a continuation of a series that kind of took the wind out of my sails, actually. We have Dengeki Daisy Volume 4, rom-com series lots of people love, and I actually kind of got sucker punched with this volume. It was so dialogue heavy, it kind of dragged on, and then I finished the volume. I went, I kind of don't want to really read any more of this right now. I'm going to move on to other things, and then the month was over. I think what really bothered me was that the premise of this new arc seemed like something that had already been done in a previous volume, so I was already kind of bored just by reading it, and then along with it being slower paced, I was like, okay, kind of need something else for a change. Have I given up on this series? Absolutely not. I am definitely going to keep going with this series. I just needed a little bit of a break, that's all. Here's a series I continued on a whim, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Volumes 2 and 3 of Chojin X by Ishida Sensei, the same mangaka who does Tokyo Ghoul. On its surface level, it just seems so basic. Another dark fantasy with monsters, beat 'em up type of thing, stereotypical twists and turns, and I was like really not into it in the second volume. But then we get to the end of volume 3, and this big twist happens that I just did not see coming. I'm super intrigued to see where this story goes now, but it just sucked that it took 3 volumes to get there. I can see why people think that the series is not even close to Tokyo Ghoul. Next up is one of the hottest series in the manga industry right now from Viz. We have Frieren Beyond Journey's End. I read volume 7 and volume 8 this month. It's just great. I can see this being the pinnacle fantasy slice of life series out there, and for very good reason. Lots of different flavors of action and just easy slice of life moments. A very interesting fantasy system, one that seems predictable at first, but you are intrigued to learn more, and each volume gives you a little bit more nuggets of lore to help you kind of grasp onto. The main cast of characters are an absolute joy to read, and they're super fun, and it's hilarious to see their interactions with each other, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what this new arc brings. I thought that this new arc direction is really cool, and we're getting some darker undertones, which is perfect for this series. Last up from Viz Media is my favorite battle shonen series in the Shonen Jump lineup right now. We have Sakamoto Days Volume 9 and Volume 10. What I love about Sakamoto Days are the action sequences, because the artwork is amazing, but then the ways that the battle progresses and how they integrate comedy into the battle, it's just super funny, and it's made me laugh out loud several times. But alongside these hilarious battles comes a really interesting story, and the tension and the dynamic of our characters coming against each other gets more and more crazy as every volume has come out, and I am just so absorbed into this series. Sakamoto Days is one of my favorite Shonen Jump series right now. These last 7 manga are all under the indie label, and it was all part of my I Had Mary manga company pick my manga haul. So thankful for them to doing this for me so I could try out some new things, and I've got some series to talk about here. And let's first start off from the smallest trim size to the biggest trim size. Young, Alive, in Love by Starfruit Books. This is a 3-volume series by Daisuke Nishijima, and it follows these 2 characters in this very Neo type of world where these big pillars, these atomic nuclear pillars, and they're just going through daily life, but there's some radiation things going on in the city and a mystery to be uncovered. The characters here are take it or leave it. The only thing that's really intriguing me to keep going is actually the story premise. I think that it's really interesting, and I'm curious to see how things develop. There seems to be a lot of action here and not a lot of substance in this first volume, so hopefully volume 2 kind of brings out some more of the lore of this world. But yeah, I'm hooked enough. A very simplistic art style too, very unique, lots of white space, but I actually like it. I think it's charming in its own way. Another manga published by Starfruit's book that really intrigued me, we have Wonder House of Horrors by Miyako Kojima. This is a short story collection, but I was honestly surprised by this one. I'm not a big fan of horror and body horror, but I thought that this one was really interesting. I chuckled at several of the different manga stories, and I just had a good time with it. So I am very intrigued to try out more of this mangaka's works, and I was actually very much impressed by Starfruit Books in general. I think that they're a great publishing company with high quality releases, so I'll continue to check out more of their stuff. From Ablaze Manga, we have Osamu Tezuka's 100 Tales, and it's just an adaptation of a novel, and it follows this samurai as he's trying to make something out of his life. It's not as deep as I thought it was going to be for a Tezuka manga. It's a very simple, straightforward story with a conclusive ending. Is it one that I would reread? No. I've read Tezuka's other stuff before, and a lot of them have been like, okay, it was good, but I'm not going to reread it, and this is just another instance of that. But I will also say that the ending felt super rushed. We have a pinnacle moment, and then a few pages, and then that's it. The story is over, and you're kind of just left blinking your eyes in disbelief. From Denpa, we have a short story collection from a mangaka I've read their other short story collection work of, and I really enjoyed it. From Pampanya, An Invitation from a Crab. Just like their other short story collection, I really like this one. I like that Pampanya has a good mix of very slow, reflective, realistic short stories, and then really crazy out there short stories that make you chuckle. And I love their art style, and I love the messages that they're trying to convey in each of these short stories. And yeah, it's just a good read. So if you're looking for a short story collection, definitely check out Panpanya's works, An Invitation from a Crab and Guyabano Holiday. I think both of them are very well received into the collection. From Glacier Bay Books, we have two short story collections. First off is Invisible Parade by Mississippi. A very interesting and beautiful release by Glacier Bay Books with this slipcover, and also the way that you read it. There's some stories that actually you have to flip, and then some stories you read right to left. So a very, very interesting reading experience, but I really liked Mississippi's works. I thought that the stories were very simple and easy to follow. None of the stories made me kind of scratch my head, which I really like about a short story collection. But if you want something really interesting and different in your collection that's an indie manga, then I cannot recommend this one enough. It's very good. The other short story collection here is A Favorable Wind on Full Sails. It was interesting. The artwork is really unique. I just felt like the stories felt really disjointed. They didn't flow very well. I could tell that they're trying to tell a message, but the problem is that the story was just really hard to follow, and it just made it really convoluted in terms of the storytelling and just the pacing of the story. You just didn't know what was going on at some point. So yeah, is it one that I recommend? Not necessarily. If you really want to get into some weird stuff, then yeah, check this one out. And last but not least, from Drawn and Quarterly, we have Nananba by Shigeru Mizuki. This is a 2-volume omnibus. It kind of tells itself like an autobiographical work, following our main character as he's going through his childhood and he's exploring yokai with his grandmother. It's episodic, but there is a kind of an overarching storyline of him growing up. It's interesting enough. I felt like some of the chapters were a little bit too long and it got a little bit boring, but overall I thought it was really intriguing. I thought that the character design was really contrasting and really different to the actual like backgrounds, and the backgrounds are really detailed, and I thought that overall it was just a really different kind of read. So I know that this mangaka has another work that I am interested in going ahead and trying, maybe not right now, but down the road. And that is it for my January 2024 manga reading log. A lot of different things that I read this month. Hopefully I can kind of streamline my reading this month in February, but overall a good start to the year 2024. As always, if you enjoy the content of my videos, make sure you hit that like button, tap the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so that you know when more of my videos come out, and I will see you in the next one. Take care now. Bye-bye.